Power. Oh, it doesn't make it that easy to get. Actually, nothing's that easy in Outward. Till now. This list will show you the best combinations of items and abilities to explore the full fighting potential your character can achieve, and never feel the need to overuse healing or potions to kill bosses. My name's David, and this is the Disms channel. Now, for maximum damage, all these characters will require spending one of your 3 breakthrough points on Shamanic Resonance for those sweet, sweet boons. But this 10 to 15% boost is not completely necessary to have fun in the game, as this list will always consider options. Just remember to learn the Possess boon from the Friendly Immaculate in one of the caves before deciding to join the Holy Mission faction. Or, for Mist, talk to Cyril Turnbull in the Blue Chamber before Burge gets attacked, to ensure you learn every boon. Otherwise, you'll have to rely on buying boon potions or food before battles. Certain builds in this list will require different skills unlocked, meaning creating new characters. But when it comes to faction exclusive items, I think it's fair to simply trade between characters with a second controller or an online buddy. Or PC players can use the debug menu to change their character skills and items anytime, which makes life much easier. Although for faction buffs per playthrough, it's really a choice between the Heroic Kingdom's 15% boost to all damage, which is quite nice, or the Holy Mission's plethora of buffs, on top of the 200% boost to all damage. But, causing your character's maximum health to drain over a few days, and dying at level 3 drain, making them go to some afterlife. Although it seems if that character joins another player's world, their life drain resets back to full health, meaning as long as you own a controller or have a friend who has the game, life impending death is avoidable. That's why I recommend the Exalted buff. And that's why damage calculations here will be using this ×2 multiplier to get the biggest numbers we crave. Another plus is that these builds will only need 1 Leyline mana to cast a few preparation spells. If mana does become costly, sleeping in a magic tent, building a rot with stuff, and wearing one of the Lich masks will easily minimize costs over drinking mana potions over and over before battles. So with all these tips in mind, let's learn how to become overpowered. The first build is Lightning Bullets, which applies the second highest damaging attack really quickly, 3 times, plus 2 slightly weaker other pistols. It can be tricky casting Sigil or Wind and staying in the circle, but if you can, this is the quickest way to shred any boss. Woo, look at him go. Now, this is borderline exploiting the game, but I'm more of a game is half full of features rather than half full of bugs kind of guy. Anyway, when a gun is loaded, it stays loaded forever, even if it's dropped, swapped, or put in a chest. And your quick select bars will generally stick to equipping and equipping one item. But for some reason, when equipping an item that you have multiple of in the same bag or pocket, your character will switch with that weapon instead of unequipping. So this gets us 2 Chimera guns. And now we make sure these 2 guns are initially in the backpacks, as your character will put back items in the location they found them. So the 3rd gun is just left out of that swapsy stage by being in the pocket. So when you put away your 2nd shot pistol and drop your bag, the last and only gun left to grab is that one. Done. You can now shoot the strongest gun 3 times. Now to buffing it. Whenever you cast Sigil of Wind and shoot any bullet in the circle, the spell will turn all damage to lightning, then double that amount. And since it's all lightning, it's best to wear all the gear that enhances it, including the backpack, using the boon, and if an enemy is really tough, it's best to apply the Doomed effect, which reduces an enemy's resistance to lightning by 25%, on top of the 25% elemental vulnerability from the Chimera pistol. Note, melee weapons require multiple hits within 5 to 10 seconds to apply a status effect, and thankfully most weapon abilities will also accumulate these effects. Then, after applying debuffs and shooting, if you think you'll be in melee for a while, Rage and Discipline are almost always handy, along with other physical damage and resistance buffs. And it might be worth swapping out a weaker pistol for the Cannon pistol to apply Confusion, which improves that stagger-inducing impact damage. Then I advise swapping to a stronger lightning weapon, especially if you imbue it before the fight, which becomes one more reason to join the Holy Mission as you gain access to the strongest imbue, rather than the weaker potion versions. Nice abilities to top off this build include a weapon skill, using some of the universal weapon attacks, or Brace as a nice blocker. I wouldn't recommend other lightning spells as they deal much less damage, even though they look really cool. All up, assuming the enemy has 0 lightning defense, damage can become massive, and elemental damage tends to be better as most enemies have more physical resist and protection. Now alright, I think it's pretty clear guns are strong, so most builds will abuse this triple shot 2 weapon slot mechanic. Yep, like number 2, which is Chili Bang Bang. Bang Bang Bang. The advantage of this build is there's no need to cast a wind sigil, leaving an extra quick slot, and each attack is an explosion, which can cause as much damage as you want to as many nearby enemies as there is. But they must be close enough for the approximately 6-foot range. Also, this build requires the most setup by consuming a frost boon per bullet, leading to quite a few naps. Now, the frost bullet has a bit less damage, with all harm being converted to frost plus 55. Just like Doom, frost weakness is applied through chill, which can only be done with 2 swings of the brand sword. After shooting, if they're still standing, I recommend doing the usual, swapping to a stronger weapon and going down on the near death boss. By hitting multiple enemies, this could be considered the strongest attack, as we still have pretty big numbers. I also love the extra defense from the armor and the look of the icy imbued pistols. Oh. If the enemy has 0 frost defense, damage can still be quite big. Of course, this build is best saved for multiple enemies due to its huge preparation time. But this third build has the strongest single attack in the game, along with much easier to use guns. Painful executions. All you have to do is load a bullet with iron, then shoot. Since the attack already applies the physical weakening pain effect, and the high impact bonus tends to stun lock enemies at any range, it's the safest way to stun lock and barrage enemies from any distance. Although, since Shatter Bullet doesn't boost any physical damage, the only way we can amp up the attacks are with Discipline, physical potions or food, and armor. I recommend using just the Chimera pistols and a Cannon pistol to apply the confusion effect, leaving 5 slots open for the 4 universal weapon skills and execute. This is where my main boy the Tsar Axe gets to thrive, as it becomes the most powerful weapon when mixed with these weapon skills, as they are not influenced by the Axe's typical slow attack speed. But mainly, by using execute on a downed enemy with all the buffs, we get the highest damaging attack. Theoretically, if the enemy has no physical resist or protection, which almost never happens though, we get massive numbers. Without execute, it's still fairly strong, and with other fast abilities, we get some great numbers in between. Note, we get the most out of imbues here too. So for this build, we ideally want to use Divine Lightning, as the slightly stronger imbues out there require a complete breakthrough point to learn. But still, no matter what imbue you pick, woo, it's a lot of damage. Although now, it's time to get more close and personal. You know what they say, the best offense is a good defense. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. Unbreakable Heat. This build has the toughest armor, backpack, weapon, melee skills, while being on fire, and your character doesn't even care. Alright, before a fight, apply your boons, your defense and attack potions, then cast Sigil of Fire and Ward to set yourself on fire and deal extra fire damage. For imbues, I recommend just going with a Fire Varnish over trying to unlock the Fire Imbue and waste that breakthrough point. Normally, this would do damage to you, and drinking water will also put out the buff benefits, but the Tsar armor makes you immune to damage, so you're doing a solid amount of fire and physical. Firing a Chimera pistol shot for elemental vulnerability, and a Cannon pistol with Shatter Bullet to apply pain and confusion will still be handy though. But then it's all about endlessly swinging. I recommend the Tsar Great Axe for more overall damage, or the Tsar Axe and Shield to boost that 83% impact resist to 105%, which is 100 pretty much, while blocking, meaning you can never fall over and stop projectiles so long as you aren't hurt by unblockable spells. Even without blocking though, it's difficult to ever get downed. All up, your character will have a ton of defense, leaving you free to attack constantly with solid damage. The fire buffs might tempt you into using the Sunfall Axe, but since imbues convert all damage types to fire anyway, the massive Tsar physical numbers get more out of the imbue and deal way more overall damage than the base Sunfall Axe ever could. Unless you're going up against certain resistances you want to get around. The Sunfall Axe can be considered in this next build, which has the most damaging move overall, over time. Burning Burn Circle. This build centers around the constant damage that Ring of Fire applies, which is amplified by armor, immolate, the Fire Resonance passive, and maybe the Thermal Claymore if you don't want to use melee attacks, as the 15% boost is nice, but melee attacks become much weaker. Another downside to the Claymore is how the only way to apply burn is with a shield charge from the Dragon Shield, meaning a one-handed weapon requires less swapping. Despite all the fire buffs though, the Tsar Axe still has more overall damage than the Sunfall Axe. But I still recommend using the Fire Axe anyway, since most enemies have so much physical resist. Note, you need to land both hits of the shield charge to apply that burn weakness. With 108 damage per second and the flames lasting 25 seconds, we get massive amounts. With the Thermal Claymore, the damage goes up a nice amount too, but still, just swinging with the Fire Axe would deal some of the strongest elemental damage in the game. Of course, burning itself will also apply fire damage, and even though you will be taking some damage from Immolate, it's only 10% of the usual thanks to the boon, Fire Resonance, the White Priest Smiter, and the Exalted defensive buffs. Meaning this is one tough area of effect, solid armor, damage over timey sort of builds. So long as you can safely set up the fire ring and keep the enemy in it. Oh, and you can put up with the sound of the enemy getting hurt every second. So yeah, damage over time has big potential. So let's apply all the effects this time with Burning Toxic Blood. This build allows you to just kill your enemies with a few attacks and let them slowly die. Since armor and buffs don't enhance status damage, there's no need to wear any specific armor or apply many buffs before fights. But still, while waiting out the enemy to die, it's best to either have strong defensive armor, or, as I prefer, speed to become completely untouchable. Now, we'll be applying Burning, Extreme Bleeding, and Extreme Poison. Only the strongest versions of Poison and Bleeding will apply though, so don't try and use the regular effects. And of course, you can't stack multiple effects of the same name. It will just reset the timer. Alrighty, from the start of the combo, we apply Burning by ramming with the Dragon Shield. Then, Extreme Poison and Extreme Bleeding using the Horror Axe with Feral Strikes. Afterwards, we apply Elemental Vulnerability and Burning with Pistols. Then, win! If the boss is really tough, it's best to reapply Extreme Bleeding through Piercing Shot with the strongest bow. Also, Evasive Shot is handy to cripple them too. Damage wise, including weaknesses, we have decent numbers, especially with Bleed as it deals true damage based off a percentage of an enemy's maximum health, leading to Poison and Burn being there just to finish off that remaining 50.8% of health. Sadly, there is no way to apply a poison weakness though. Really, it is the bleed that does the most, so I recommend using Feral Strikes early in fights and other builds too, or Piercing Shot and running away from the enemy if you don't want to consume the Rage Boon. Of course you can ditch the Dragon Shield for some stronger moves as it only adds 35 extra fire damage, and that's if you apply Burn first, making it really risky for such a small amount of bonus. Still, overall this is a fairly safe and easy way to take care of tough bosses so long as you're patient. It's going to take a while for you to get through my shield, and time is not on your... Well, hold up now. Whoa. Just remember, some bosses are immune to certain status effects. But hopefully this list has highlighted how much fun it is to be creative and compromise. So, when it comes to dealing the most damage, whether through quick bursts or over time, these are the top builds that I could see in the game. Was there any strong builds that I missed? What's your favorite build to rock in the game? Drop it in the comments section. Also, there's still a ton more fun things now for me to show, along with so many other games. My channel focuses on pouring a ton of effort into getting the most fun out of video games, and celebrating the amazing soundtracks they come with. So if you enjoyed what you've seen or heard, hit that subscribe button, and the bell button, as it only gets better from here. But till then, thanks for watching.